You're listening to the Biz Babes with Soul podcast with your host, Melody Spencer. This is episode 2. Hey guys, welcome to the Biz Babes with Soul podcast. I'm your host, Melody Spencer, and I'm super excited to have the lovely Emily Stoker here today to chat with us about what she does and how she got started. So Emily is an online video content creator, and she grew up in the UK, but after discovering the world of entrepreneurship during an internship in Paris, she knew she wasn't destined for the 9-to-5 lifestyle. So welcome, Emily. We're so glad to have you.
Hi, Melody. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. So tell the listeners a little bit about what you do and your journey from, that internship to where you are now.
Yeah, of course. So as you've already said, my name is Emily, and I describe myself as a digital content creator / strategist. I do some strategy in there too. And that's mainly what I do these days. It's been an interesting journey to get here, but basically I did an internship when I was at university. To kind of condense the story, this internship really showed me what it could be like to be an entrepreneur, and seeing the startup culture was so fascinating to me. And I was in Paris, and I studied languages actually, so I got the chance to do some travel as a part of my studies. And I think it was really the mix of that, seeing different cultures and seeing different ways of working, that opened my eyes up to this possibility. So as soon as I graduated from university, I decided to move to Italy, which was somewhere I'd spent part of my time at university. So I moved back there. I didn't really have much of a plan other than I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to work in social media. I loved Italy. I wanted to build a life that I loved around these things. And I just said I would work out the rest. And, I kind of did. I was in Italy for another 18 months. And in that time, I built up my freelancing business. And then it's really the last 6 months or so where I've tried to level it up a bit. And I started my content creation business. So before this, I was doing social media management, and I've really moved more into the content creation part because I've been making YouTube videos and blogging for so many years. I thought, you know what, I can put this together with everything that I learned when I was freelancing, all my internships and things, and I can really offer people value here. And there was a lot of fear and things along the way, of course, but that really brings me to where I am today. So now I'm bringing together all those skills and still trying to build this life I love, but learning a lot along the way and learning what that looks like to me.
Yeah. So when you've come up against those obstacles where you felt like, oh, I should just go get a regular job, or, give up, like, what kept you going? What has been your consistent motivator?
I have this, it's a really good question, because I think, I'm sure it comes up in a lot of the interviews you do, that of course there are those moments. It's never smooth sailing. And I still think I'm a very new entrepreneur, and I've already had my fair share of those moments. But I have something I always say to myself, which is never settle, always strive. And it's sort of a motto I have for myself, which is really, I don't want to settle for a mediocre life. And I'm not saying that having a regular job is mediocre. That's what some people want. And what is a regular job in the first place? Mm-hmm. But for me, I really want to work for myself. I want the freedom to travel. And these are things that are really important to me. And I want to challenge myself, and I want to create this life for myself. So that phrase really reminds me, and maybe to an unhealthy extent at times, maybe it can get a little obsessive, but that's one thing that really reminds me of why I'm doing this in the first place.
Yeah. So I know the struggles of working for yourself and working from home. Do you have any sort of routine that keeps you going, to get you out of the house or get you starting your day on the right foot? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not great with my morning routine. I have one that I have one I try to go back to, and when I see people that have kind of really got one down, I see the benefits of it. I wouldn't say I'm totally there yet with it, but, things for me that really help me to be more productive, I'm learning, are getting out of the house. I thought that I could be someone who could be productive working from home, but It kind of ebbs and flows. I do get days where it's okay, but I think I'm just learning that I'm very changeable, and I just have to really stay up to date and be honest with myself about what's working for me at that moment. And right now, that is going out and working in cafes. I've also got, I'm in Brussels at the moment, and I've got a client here in Brussels, and I've actually been going to their sort of startup office, which is part of a co-working space, and doing a bit of work there. So I think the variety really helps me, to be honest. So maybe I don't know if that's atypical. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs loving their routines, and I can see the value in it, but I'm not. I don't have a perfect routine at all just yet.
I mean, I think it depends on your personality, because I do like a routine, but I also realize that it can kind of be like a rut a little bit. Like you get stuck in a pattern. So like I'm trying to make myself get out of the house and go work in cafes instead of just being home all day. So yeah, I think there's value to both. For sure.
That's very true, actually, because I think sometimes I almost get scared of routines at times, because, you know, my story is quite unusual. Like I moved to Italy, and now I'm in Brussels, but I did some traveling in the middle. So, you know, for me, like this idea of a normal 9-to-5 and routine was quite scary for me. So maybe that's part of the reason too. Maybe that's why I really enjoy and thrive off of the variety.
So did you ever consider just getting a normal job, or was that just totally off your plate?
I think I was a little bit stubborn about it, because when it was coming up to graduation, and so many of my friends were going to move to London and get graduate jobs. And that was the kind of, I guess the regular choice, like the choice I felt was expected of me, because I got a good grade on my degree. It was, I studied languages, as I said, and I'd done a ton of internships in communication. So I could have found a PR job or something. And I kind of thought about it. I thought maybe I should, you know, just work for a year or something in social media and get these skills up before I try working freelance. But I was pretty stubborn about it, and I just wanted to be in Italy so badly. So I don't know. I searched for some internships when I first got to Italy. So I guess I was considering like that would be kind of like a normal, the most normal next step that I could possibly do, moving to a new country. Mm-hmm. But no, to be honest, there's always this little thing in my head which is like, how can I make this more challenging for myself? Which, you know, it's sometimes, it's not always necessarily a positive thing, but there are definitely positives from it. Like I've learned so much from pushing myself. But at the same time, there have been, there's been burnout, there have been stressful periods. So I'm not a perfect human. I'm not saying it's the perfect solution. So maybe I could have made things a bit easier for myself, kind of taking smaller leaps each time, you know?
Yeah. So what has been your biggest struggle so far?
It's difficult to say one. Well, you know, it hasn't been
pick a few.
Yeah, I'll kind of, I don't know, I'll tell you a little bit.
This sounds like a job interview, and it's not.
No, you're absolutely fine. No, the biggest struggle so far, I think it's got to be kind of a mentality and mental health mixture of things. So I have struggled with anxiety and depression in the past, and I'd say about a year ago was a very difficult point with that. I was working at 2 jobs kind of. I was kind of freelancing with this social media agency for most of the week, about 30 to 35 hours a week. But I was also putting in overtime because I was trying to learn so much on the job, and it was so much to do. But I was also teaching English, because that was what was bringing the money in when I first got to Italy. And I was just getting to a point where I could drop the teaching job, but it was, I was trying to be good to the company I was working for and give them enough time to find a replacement. And it was around that time where I was just burnt out. I was really struggling with anxiety. Depression was creeping back in because it was just all too much. And that's something that's, I constantly have to be aware of. And whenever I think like, oh, I'm in a really good streak right now, I'm feeling really good, because entrepreneurship is full of ups and downs for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And and then you pair that with any kind of mental health issues. And I think even people who don't identify as struggling with mental health are going to inevitably have those periods of worry and, maybe anxiety at times. So that's been tough. And I think more recently, in the last few months, I guess it's kind of linked, but this kind of self-doubt, and it's something that keeps creeping in, but when you really go for it and you start your own business and you go for something that just seems so ambitious, and how can I possibly achieve this, it really tests what you think of yourself, and it can be sad that we don't think more of ourselves when actually the people around us are telling us, Emily, you can really do this, like, go for it. And I guess the flip side of that is that when you realize that you were capable and when you push yourself and you do it, it's an incredible feeling. And I think I've held myself back a lot of times because of that, but I'm just starting to learn that, okay, maybe there's a little part of the voice in my head that hasn't always got my best interest at heart. And that's why it's so important to just be self-aware, I think, and understand where that's coming in.
Yeah, it's funny because I have such a similar experience to you. I mean, I've been doing this longer, but I still have struggled with those same issues. I mean, I think especially as people like us who struggle with anxiety and depression, I think it's even worse for us as entrepreneurs because you can never get away from those, like, I call them thought gremlins.
That's good. Yeah.
In your head that are just like, you suck, like, you're bad at this, like, you're an imposter, like, it's always there, and you have to, like, figure out a way to push them away, because I left my normal 9-to-5 job because my anxiety was so high and I had such a terrible boss. But and I thought, that'll go away when I work for myself. Like, it'll be on my own terms. No, that's bullshit. No, it's still just as bad because now it's me going, you suck. You're not making any money. Nobody wants to work with you. Blah, blah, blah. It's all in the back of your head. And nobody ever talks about that. And it's like the dirty secret in like female entrepreneur world. No one's like, today sucks and I made no money. No one talks about that.
Yeah. And it's true. And, when I was getting into entrepreneurship, I was listening to a lot of podcasts with like Tim Ferriss and, there's like Gary Vaynerchuk. I feel like there are so many, I already feel like entrepreneurship is very like male dominated. Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of this like masculine energy, like hustle, 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 all of these. I don't know. I don't really know how to, I don't know. I can't, of course, lump all of them together, but there is that kind of feeling that I had there that I put a kind of pressure on me, and I think that entrepreneurship is a very personal journey. It's like you were saying, like there's no escape from those thoughts inside your head because you're solely responsible for your own success. Of course, there are aspects in there which can affect it and give you little boosts or maybe obstacles which can hold you back a bit, but your mind is the most powerful tool. And I don't know, that all of this kind of masculine energy and this like hustle mentality, I think really made me think that I wasn't good enough at the beginning. And I don't want to blame those figures, but you're right that it's not talked about as much. These, I don't know, but entrepreneurs like me, I don't see as many figures out there who are kind of sensitive people who, who really struggle with self-doubt at times. And I'm sure it's not because they don't exist. It's just because they're not as loud and they're not heard as much.
Right. I think that there's a big number of us. It's just the people that stick out the most are the ones who are like putting up the facade of, I'm living on Bali and I like making $1 million and I look perfect and my life is wonderful. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not true. Like, for some people that is, but that can't be true for everybody. And the only people that are sticking out are those people.
Yeah. And you know what, maybe it is a short, I don't want to say a shorter journey because nobody's ever reached their entrepreneurial goal full stop, like, or at least I don't think so, because I think most entrepreneurs are always thinking of the next thing they can do. But you see some entrepreneurs who do get there much more quickly than others, like whatever your definition of success is, whether it's sitting on a beach in Bali or whether it's the amount of money you're making. But just because you don't adhere to those standards, just because you don't live up to what they're doing, it doesn't make you a worse entrepreneur. It just means that your journey's different.
Yeah, I think everybody has their own version of success. And for me, I mean, I wrote a post about this morning. Like, it's so easy in this world to have the comparisonitis of like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
she's making more money, or oh, she's charging more than me or less than me. And you get caught up in this world of like trying to be better than, when really we should all just have the whole community over competition thing. Like, we're all trying to get shit done. We're all trying to be like amazing female entrepreneurs. Why
Mm-hmm.
can't we just support each other? Why do we have to constantly compare and belittle? And it should be a community of support. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this podcast, because people women need to know that, one, you're not alone in your struggle, even though it's not talked about. And two, like,
Mm-hmm.
we're all there for each other.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a really powerful message. And yeah, I even catch myself sometimes doing it. I'll read a Facebook post and I think, oh, like she's doing better than me, or I'll feel jealous at times. But the most powerful thing that I've been learning through this journey is, I mean, like I said earlier, everyone's journey is different, and I knew it coming into it. Like, I'd read it and people had said it to me, but it's a different thing where you really start to experience it and understand it and learn it for yourself. But yeah, the other thing that's been really powerful is just speaking to other female entrepreneurs who are on different stages in their journey, because it's so easy to Google about entrepreneurship and find people who have like made it, whatever that means. But when it comes to people, who are at the beginning of their journey or in a really awkward stage in the middle of their journey, and maybe they're not even on an upward trajectory at the moment, they were heading up and now they're in a kind of dip. Like, those are the kinds of stories that are really interesting and really, I don't know, help you to feel not as alone, like you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as content creation, like, what gets you excited about that? Like, what do you love about that?
Oh, it's a good question. I guess, like, I always see myself as having these kind of two parts of me, which is the kind of strategic side, which I think is a lot smaller, and then the creative side. Like, there's something about just creating something from scratch, coming up with an idea and communicating something. And if it's a new video that I'm creating, I can start out just with like a little idea in my head, and it can come from anything. If it's a personal project, it really can come from anything. If it's from a client, then of course it's slightly different. But I love to like brainstorm on a notebook and write something down on paper, and there's something really like magical about that stage where it's just ideas and it can go in any direction. And then slowly you start to problem solve and you start to build something, to create something. And just that process of creation for me, and I think it's the same with my business as well, creating a business or creating a video, until you've got something tangible that you can really show people and communicate an idea. There's just something super powerful in that for me. And I think that's probably what I would say it comes down to, is communication. And that's probably the thread all through the things that I've done throughout my my years on this earth. I'm still very young. But
yes, but you're young, but you're tenacious, and you've got a lot of passion, which I love. Which
thank you.
I think about where I was when I was your age, and yeah, I don't think I even had the guts. I mean, clearly I didn't start my business until I was 30, so I can't imagine, doing that in my 20s.
Well, like, part of starting it in my 20s, I think, was almost a fear of, if I go and get this graduate job, I'm worried that I won't leave it and I will be 50 years old thinking, oh, whatever happened to that idea? Mm-hmm. So part of it kind of did come from a fear, a fear of settling or just getting too comfortable. But yeah.
So what do you think sets female entrepreneurs apart? Like, what makes us different? What makes us special? Like, I know we talked about the masculine energy. Like, what do you think makes us stand out from our male counterparts?
Well, you know what? I think that there are so many different types of female entrepreneurs that there's not one answer to that question. I've in my last few years of really learning about entrepreneurship and discovering so many different female entrepreneurs, I see a lot of people who are really emulating that kind of Gary Vaynerchuk energy, I've met like spiritual healers who are on completely the opposite side of the scale and are very into intuitional action, the opposite of that hustle mentality. So I don't know if I could really generalize like all female entrepreneurs, but
well, what do you feel like makes you special or like different?
Yeah. I guess what I like about how I'm learning to do things is that I'm seeing that there are so many different ways that you can approach entrepreneurship. And actually, as I was saying, it's a personal journey. So I think that's the thing. You can really make it into whatever you want it to be. So for me, I'm still learning how much of me is hustle, how much of me is intuitive action, how much of me is strategic, how much of me is creative. And the only boundaries that are there are the ones that set yourselves. But personally, I love that I can let my sensitivity come through, and I don't see that as a hindrance anymore, which, if you asked me even a year ago when I was listening to all of these kind of hustle podcasts, I was thinking, oh, I've got to get over this sensitivity thing because that's going to hold me back.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not true.
Do you ever, I mean, I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes I get caught up in all of the different like gurus telling me what to do. And I'm like, oh, I need to listen to this video and watch this training. And then I feel like they all have their own way of doing it. And when you listen to too many, it's like, well, what do I do? Which one do I pick? Like, this guy said this and this guy said that. And it gets really overwhelming. And I just want to like crawl under the covers and never come out.
Yeah, I definitely had that. Like before I started my business, when I was still freelancing, the seed was planted. I had this idea that I wanted to start a business, and I was listening to a lot of content about the ways different people were doing it. And I don't know, I feel like I thought I'd listened to so many podcasts and stuff that I'd have some kind of a head start in a way when I started my business. I don't know, it sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud now, but it is overwhelming because at the end of the day, like, you can consume all the content. If you know something in theory, it doesn't mean you know it in practice. And everyone's contradicting each other and saying different things. And I actually cut back a lot on the content I was listening to, especially because I'm a content creator. I want there to be part of my personality that comes through in my content. And when I'm talking to clients, I want to be able to really tune into what it is that they want to communicate. Who are they? What is their story? And be able to let that come across when I'm creating content for them. So I still have people that I really look up to, and I still will consume content, and I still let myself be inspired by that. But I definitely take everything with a much bigger pinch of salt now, because I really think that all of us are just on our own personal journey, and we've got the answers inside of us, or at least we've got the tools to help ourselves to work out the answers. And I need reminding of that a lot of the time, but I think that there is truth behind it.
Yeah, it's so easy to take one guru or one expert and be like, oh, I'm going to consume all of their stuff and I'm going to follow them to the T. But it's like you said, we all have our own like little thing that makes us special. So I don't want to be Tony Robbins. I don't want to be, Gabrielle Bernstein. Like, I like those people, but I don't want to be them because that's what they do, what they're good at, and I do what I'm good at. And yeah, we just need to be ourselves. I think there needs to be more of our own personality coming through our marketing and the way we present ourselves, because we really are selling ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I told that to a client the other day, and she was like, oh, like, I don't want myself. And I'm like, well, you are your business. Like, you have to present your personality.
Yeah, I think it's very true. Like, even, of course, with personal brands, like I would see my brand as a personal brand, like my company name is my name. So with businesses like mine, 100%. And even actually other types of businesses, like I've been working with a startup recently, and I feel like they're getting there with their kind of brand personality and stuff, but you need to have personality there, and you need to have a personable, like, human approach to marketing these days. I really believe that. And I think that, like, I don't know, like, kind of millennials grew up in this generation where we were being like lied to through advertising so much, and I mean other generations as well, but particularly like millennials now, they're catching on to, you know, am I allowed to curse? I'm not going to curse.
Yes. No,
okay.
No, this is a curse friendly show.
Okay. They've got excellent bullshit detectors, so they don't want to be advertised to. Marketing doesn't have to be robotic, and it doesn't have to be like it used to be on television, you know, 10, 15 years ago even. It's social media has changed that. We can have a human approach and talk to people like we're humans, and we have to let our personality come out to do that. People want to be treated like they're humans, and they want to talk to a human. They want to do business with a human. And it comes down to trust, and, you know, you've got to let your personality shine in order to do that. Some people won't like it, but there will be people who do like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say to a woman listening to this podcast who wants to take the leap and become an entrepreneur? Like, what would you say your biggest piece of advice for her would be?
So I'm kind of imagining like speaking to kind of another version of myself that's like, oh gosh, I kind of want to do what you're doing, but I'm scared. Like it seems like a lot. The first thing is be kind to yourself on this journey. If you're already brave enough to take the leap and to do this, it means that you've got something special in there, and you've got a big idea, and your big idea is worth putting out there. You've got your own talents, you've got your own skills, whoever you are, and you've got your own story, you've got something to share. But just be kind to yourself, you know, and stop telling yourself that you're crap or you're not worth it. There's so much that I could say, but be kind to yourself. But also, I don't know, kind of work out a plan as well. Like when I went into this, I kind of had a plan, but part of me wishes that I'd really let myself like dream a little bit bigger when I went into it, because when I first tried to start up my business, I basically tried to kind of repeat the jobs that I was doing before, and the parts I didn't like of them. And it's like the whole point of starting a business is to escape the bits that you don't like. So dream bigger. Don't be afraid to do that. But in addition to that, don't be afraid to take smaller steps. Like you can have a big dream, but take smaller steps in order to get there. And I don't think there's any shame in that. I think that some people encourage you to really have to take huge leaps and all of this. And, you know, you have to be having 10K months within your first like quarter of doing business. And yeah, I don't know.
Oh, really? Am I supposed to? Because that sounds...
Wouldn't that be lovely?
5 years later, I'm like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not there yet, but you know, don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Just don't put ridiculous pressures on yourself where you don't have to. You're being brave enough as you are starting a business, and so many things I could say, but
that's
yeah, and enjoy it as well. And I could do more of that.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like so many of us, like, again, get into that hustle scarcity mentality that we don't take a second to go like, oh, like I don't have to literally go into an office. Like I don't have to, you know, report to a boss, or I don't, you know, I make my own terms in my life. I have my own lifestyle. That we kind of forget that. We get bogged down in the little like stresses of owning our own businesses that we don't actually enjoy it. So
yeah, it's and the thing is, like, you're never going to have this moment again where, I'm not saying it's going to be a straight up trajectory in your business, but like I today am never going to have this same exact feeling as I have today, be at this exact point that I'm at today. And in like 10 years time, there'll probably be a part of me that's like, oh, I'd love to relive that day because at that time I had this or that, or you know, just be grateful for the things that you're learning and try to enjoy it as you're learning, because you're going to learn so much. So don't be afraid of those lessons. And failure can be a part of that as well. It's totally okay to have little failures and big failures. Like, you learn from them. You learn so much from them.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So if anybody wants to find you online, where can they find you?
So you can find me on my website, which is emilykstoker.com, and K is K-A-Y. My YouTube channel is also my most active social media. I post weekly videos about what I'm doing in my business and travels and things like that. And that's youtube.com/Emily Stoker. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, which is Emily K. Stoker, once again.
Yay! Well, this was so fun. I loved this. I feel like you're so inspiring, and it's going to be such a fun episode for people to hear. So.
Oh, thank you so much, Melody. And I really appreciate you inviting me, because it's very humbling to think that my story can already, offer something to other people. I don't know.
I definitely think it can. I think that you are further along than a lot of people, and it is going to inspire those newbie entrepreneurs who are scared of taking the leap to just do it.
I really hope so. Yeah, I still feel like, giving like pearls of wisdom or whatever seems crazy to me, because I'm so early on in my journey, and I need reminding of everything that I'm saying as well. I'm a human, Yeah,
you're not a robot. Nope.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview with Emily. All right. Bye. Thank you for joining me for the Biz Babes with Soul podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. To learn more about me, Melody Spencer, and the show, please visit swiftlysocial.com.